and let the games begin. Welcome to Bad Influence. We have our good friend John Adcock. He is here to discuss his favorite singer, Taylor Swift. And I am Daniel Burdett, also known as the Libertarian Honey Badger. That guy. And I must admit that I know about 90%, probably about 90% of Taylor Swift's music on guitar. But that's has a lot to do with 90% of her music being the same four chords. And chicks dig it. Chicks dig T Swift. Chicks dig. Okay, so Taylor Swift is suddenly a political issue. I think maybe we should go chronologically. We can start with the first thing that got her in trouble politically was she struck billionaire status. So the commies are upset that she has a lot of money. I'll let you lead because I have a little rant about this because I'll let you lead. I'll lead because I got a rant. Listen. This woman gave out like fucking, what was it, like 5-figure bonuses after her concert to like makeup people and like little scaffers and like the regular dudes, everybody. Like she cut them all in heavy, huge fucking bonuses, right? Like insane bonuses. This woman gives so much to charity, she can't even write it all off on her taxes. So it's not like just a I'm trying to get out of taxes thing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, yeah, like my point being is like she is literally the billionaire you guys have been asking for. And instead of cheering her on, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's kind of like the thing you had talked about before about Hassan Piker. It's kind of like you got the money, start the co-op. You know what I mean? Like, what's stopping you from doing what you say everyone should be doing that has this level of money? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like one of my things is like, you know, she's not screaming socialism now, as far as I know. But I'm just making the point that, like, she is probably, you know, top tier. Like, if you ask me, if I got an offer to work for Taylor Swift, I'd probably do it. Because I would guarantee that I would get paid well and probably treated well. From what is said across the board about working with Taylor Swift or for Taylor Swift. You see what I'm saying? So my point being is like this woman is like probably the model billionaire, and you guys are just like, oh, she hit the number. We don't like her no more. It's just dumb. It really is. I don't get that, and that's my big rant on it because it's just kind of like, if anything, she deserves the kudos for that. To be real. Because, like, that shit blew my mind when I started seeing what she was handing out, like, to the people after the tour. I was like, God damn, everybody was bitching about how much this shit cost, but she was paying these people. You know what I mean? And that's a bonus. That's on top of what she was already paying these people insane amounts of money, you know, comparatively for those kinds of jobs. So look at this. She's taxing the rich, and you guys are mad. Because let's be real, only rich people are going to these concerts. You see how much some tickets cost? Yeah, it's like some of those people are like that. Literally, it's like at this point, it's like I feel like it's just jealousy. There's nothing more that I can point to at this point. Like in those situations, like I do think there are people who are arguing these points that legitimately care about people, but I do think a lot of these people are also quite what's the word? Literally, it's just jealousy. It's just I'm mad I don't have it. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm not saying all because I would never put that on all. Just like it's like kind of saying like some people who are against like open immigration are racist fucking assholes, and some people are like, hey, I just don't think this is gonna work out. You know what I mean? Like there's two different camps there. You can't lump them together, but those people do exist. Yes, in some instances, and in some instances, there's people who just don't think it's going to work. Like I said, I'm not saying either one. And this is kind of what I'm talking about in places that are already socialist. I'm not trying. We'll just take this quick tangent because it's an interesting tangent. Places that are already like Canada and a lot of these Nordic countries and a lot of people, they have hyper strict immigration laws, right? And it's a lot of it's because they can't just have, all of these programs get bled dry by other people coming in, no matter where they're coming from, white, black, Asian, whatever country. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that it's people at all is a drain on the system. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things that so it's not necessarily fair. Like, there are people who are actually, left socialist communist people who actually are really big border hawks for that exact reason, knowing that if you open up those kind of programs and social services, that you got to close the border down because you got to, which is kind of funny because it ends up making like a weird leftist version of America First. You know what I mean? And those people exist. They're out there. No matter what they used to be a big part of the Democratic Party. They used to be the big prevailing narrative was, hey, we gotta police our borders, we gotta be border hawks, but at the same time, we gotta have these programs. And then, like, I want to say it was Reagan. Reagan was like, open the border and shut all the programs down. You know what I mean? Like the Republicans were more the ease off, and then what's his face was the big one that brought it to. But I mean, there were Republicans before Trump that did have that thing. But regardless, the point being is, it's like you go across the world, it's border security is usually associated with socialist and social safety net countries. Pretty much all of them. Israel's like that. Israel's hyper, anti-immigration from many places, unless you're Jewish. Which if anybody can argue that anything's kind of a little bit racist, that's kind of a little bit racist. But the origin of that is from a lot of persecution, so I'm not really hating on it for them, if that makes sense. It's kind of like when you say, hey, I'm only going to give out scholarships to black kids, and I'm like, well, that's kind of racist, but at the same time, the origin of that is we have a lot of poor black kids that need the money. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of like a similar situation. You know what I mean? Like if you had any country that said, hey, we're only taking white people, and everybody else we're going to be really, really, really hardcore and scrutinish, and, then people would be like, that's kind of racist. And if anybody said, hey, we're only taking black people, and it's like, yeah, we'd say the same thing, or only Asians. I'm just saying, but like, that's kind of what they're doing. but like the origin of that is that. But if you said, hey, we're only taking Rwandans,
You okay?
What are you doing? But if you said, hey, we're only taking Rwandans, you know what I'm saying? At this moment, we would all get it too. So that's kind of my point. Is like, it's the idea of it is because there's a present danger, so it's a little bit different. So like that's another thing that I think a lot of people miss on a lot of this stuff. They're just like black and white. It's like, well, there's some nuance to some things. But I'm not. I wasn't arguing with any of that. I'm saying, like, if you're Jewish and you live in Poland, right? You can apply for Israeli citizenship and they fast track you. But if you're just a black guy that lives in Poland and you want to go move to Israel, it's a lot tougher. That's kind of the point I'm making. No, it's a blood test. They're like I said, it's more of a, like I said, that's kind of my point. And if any other country was doing shit like that, we'd be like, that's creepy. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, the reason we're allowing it, and it's understandable, would be the same reason why during, the Rwandan genocide, if somebody was to say, hey, we're only taking Rwandans, people wouldn't be like, well, that's racist to all the other, you're only taking these black people. You know what I mean? I'm ADHD. So Taylor Swift, anyway, apparently she's on the brain for a lot of people. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, apparently she somewhat made some people slightly angry for saying she was going to support Joe Biden. All of like, but like all of 7 people were mad about it, and then there's like 487,000 memes that leftists are making about it. Oh, they're so mad! Like there's like 6 people. I've literally seen nothing about this. Like 6 people, dude. And half the time I'm wondering, is this like some troll that's just pretending because he thinks it's funny? Like, to be mad because he sees all these other people saying that everyone's mad? I don't even know at this point. But it's just all these leftist memes about like, oh, conservatives are so scared of a strong woman, and I'm just like, what happened? Weren't y'all like mad at her like 2 minutes ago for becoming a billionaire? And it's just like that like again, it's like 4 fucking people, and it's just like, who cares? So she likes Joe Biden, like 90% of other stars in Hollywood. Like, is this really surprising to anyone? Like, who is this surprising to? And who cares? Like, like, who's following Taylor Swift for her political opinions? So dumb. But I'm just saying, like if people are like, there's all these people who have this like opinion. They're like, well, these guys, we shouldn't be listening to these guys' political opinions. Like, you know how you do that? Don't listen to their political opinions. It's like, it's like if you follow this guy because you like his music, then like his music and not don't worry about what he's saying outside of music. And if you follow this guy because you like him as a good basketball player, then let him play basketball. And why are you worried about what he's saying? Don't even say shut up and like the shut up and dribble thing. Like, who cares? Let him talk. He wants to talk. I always side-eye celebrities, especially actors. I'm like, you literally get paid to lie to people and make it look convincing. So, like, I don't know. I just don't trust you. I'm not saying that it is happening. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that, like, you have a whole team that tells you what stance to take is the money-making move. Like, so I don't trust anything you're saying. Like, how do I know this isn't an act just to make sure you get this next part with this person that wants you to be this type of activist? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how do I know you're not showing out for a part or something like that? I don't know any of that. So I don't trust anything an actor or any of those people say. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, your job is to act and lie to people. And I'm not hating on it. It's just like, that's your job. You know what I mean? And that's another thing, too. It's like if you're fucking studying scripts all day long, memorizing lines and shit like that, and preparing for roles, I doubt you are poring over foreign policy and economic fucking statistics and shit like that. Except weird nerds like me. But that's because of my love of praxeology. And as much as libertarians will go on and on and on about economics as praxeology, nothing is a better example of praxeology than foreign policy. If this happened to me, what would I do? Okay, there you go. Now it's understandable. It's really that simple. It's like, how do people feel when bombs get dropped on their head? How do people feel when they see their kid lying in the dead bleeding out? How do people, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's pretty simple to figure out how. It's like, how do people feel when, you know, a country brings them a lot of new items that are really dope and make their lives easier? You see what I'm saying? It's like, there's your foreign policy. You know what I mean? This is kind of what China's foreign policy has been lately. Funnily enough, if you think about it. Like, I'm gonna go build a bunch of bridges over here for you and some schools and shit. Oh, I'm getting a side note. So, Mars makes these M&Ms that are all these like different colors, right? And everybody's fighting about that, right? And this is something that I was pointing out to a friend of mine, because I was like, if you notice, like, Mars has literally come out. You can look this up, Google it if you want to. There's all kinds of fucking evidence. They're literally participating in slavery. Literally. And you guys are arguing about the color of the M&Ms. Like, that is textbook divide and conquer. Do you not think that all of these people are not against slavery? I mean, when you have all these articles coming out that, hey, these guys are directly involved in buying this shit from these slave, and in these slave rings and all this shit, they're directly involved in this. They know about it and they don't care. Right? These articles are coming out, and then at the same time, they're changing the colors of the M&Ms, and everybody's going, oh, well, their M&Ms are woke, and the other people are like, but we need to have woke M&Ms. And it's like you're fighting over the color of M&Ms rather than the actual problem. You're being divided and conquered. So instead of and then they got half of you to still buy M&Ms, even though all of this is going on, because you got to support the woke, thing or whatever. You got to support them, and it's literal divide and conquer. It's like, get them fighting about this thing that doesn't matter. It's such a surface level thing, so they ignore the thing that actually matters. I don't think it is the news that people like seeing, to be honest. Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Like that's what I'm saying. It's a distraction. Well, I'm making the point that it's a distraction. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, and not even to say that it's completely unimportant. Some people find it important, and I get how it can be important to both ends. An issue, right? It's kind of like the bathroom issue is. Like, I get how this stuff is important, right? But at the same time, it's like a fire getting set at one side of the building is important, but that doesn't mean that the robbery happening at the other side of the building that they're distracting you from by setting the fire isn't important either. Mars is literally like, dude, the company that did the shit is making the distraction. Huh? Well, yeah, like kind of, yeah. Or looking for. No, I think there's correlations here, dog. I'm telling you. No, it isn't my feelings. Like I said, it's quite obvious, dude. Dude, all of these companies are all intertwined. You know, Mars owns like all of it. Like, it's one of the big fucking 3 companies. You have like Mars, you have Nestle. Like, they own all of the almost all of the dog food brands. They own a bunch of chocolate candy brands. They own, like, Mars is going all the way through. They own fucking shit. Just like a lot of people don't know that Pepsi and Frito-Lay are the same fucking company. The people who sell Mountain Dew and Doritos, same people. But that's what I'm saying. Mars sells fucking pedigree dog food. All the M&Ms and all those chocolates. They go all the way over into health products like shampoo and conditioner and ibuprofen and stuff like that. No, what I'm trying to tell you is, and then the company that owns Mars also owns all of these media brands that go on and on and on and on and on about the colors of the fucking M&Ms. Yeah, you have alternative news and podcasts that are pointing out, hey, this slavery. I have, from podcasts that I listen to. Because like I said, that's what they're going. They're going, hey, this is obviously a fucking distraction, And that's why they're getting viewers, and the viewers on the mainstream media is all fucking falling apart. I think they do. No, and that's why I'm saying. Yeah, kind of. There's a bunch of, like I said, there's a bunch of right wingers that'll intermittently boycott it. Why? Because they change the color of the M&Ms. But then all that they do with that is they go, look, they're boycotting us because they're transphobic. That is what we're talking about. Dude, that's the point I'm making, is there's a distraction. I'm not eating any of that stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, to be honest, I wasn't doing eating any of that shit beforehand, because I don't really eat candy. But, like, or dog food. Oh, but anyway, back to Taylor Swift and her destroying of the environment. Apparently, that's a problem for some. Which one thing I will say, this is something that I talked to you a little bit about. I said I was quite surprised. They said it was like 4 or 5 people's like lifetime or years worth or something like that worth of carbon for her to just go from Tokyo to there for one football game. And I'm like, God damn, that's a lot. I will give you that. That is a lot. But this is also something that I've said that a lot of people really don't consider, is like when people get that famous. Now, I'm not necessarily saying this goes for all rich people, but this goes to people who are famous specifically. They can't just be flying private commercial all the time, dude. Like when they get really famous, like it actually becomes a security issue, especially for people like Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? So I think that's fair to say, don't you? Obviously, she should use an electric jet. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just being a dumbass. I get it. I'm a piece of shit. Come from a long line of pieces of shit. Runs in their blood. I'm listening. I'm just emptying shell guts. I told you I put I don't smoke them with the tobacco in them. I was buying Swishers, and this guy was like, "Oh yeah, I like smoking Swishers every now and again." And I'm like, "You actually smoke Swishers?" I didn't know people actually smoked them. I thought you just put weed in them. Yeah, regardless, I will say that plane travel is something that would have to get solved, because it is something that generally does a shitload of carbon emissions, but is insanely necessary for a global economy. And that's kind of like, there's a lot of this stuff that, like, that's kind of the point that I've made to a lot of people. I think there's a few guys out there where they call them climate pragmatists, where they've done like a bunch of research and saying like basically like what could we actually afford to do. And those are the people I'm more interested in than the people who are like, we gotta shut it all down tomorrow. And it's just like, you realize the entire world is set up like, huh? Yeah, but like, there are some wackos that are saying shit like that. Or we gotta shut it down by this year or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, let's play it by ear. You might be able to shut it down earlier. You might have to, shut certain things down and wait for others. Right, but that's kind of my point too, is like, if you look at the predictions and you look at the thing, it's kind of like, what you end up, when you mix those two things together, what you end up with is people going, well, then there's basically no point in changing anything because we're fucked either way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, so basically what I'm saying is like, if you go from the climate pragmatist standpoint, right? Then you're going, okay, we'll do what we can and say fuck it for the other stuff and hope that technology develops to fix that, right? And then if you're going from the other route, it's like, we got to shut all this down or we're fucked. You know what I mean? Then it's just kind of like, well, then we're fucked because we can't shut all this down. You know what I mean? It's like it's two different ways that you can look at it, and like I said, the pragmatic way I'm not opposed to, where it's just kind of like, hey, especially when it's stuff like we're dumping chemicals in this river, it's like, the fuck? That's obviously stupid. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Well, I know I've proposed, like, specifically, like, I've talked to a bunch of these types in the climate, like, situation, and, like, because, like, that's where I'm kind of at in a lot of the climate stuff. It's kind of from that angle, and like I've talked about it with like climate, with carbon capture, with some of these guys and stuff, and like they actually have some technology they're working on now, where they can suck basically the carbon out of the atmosphere and turn it into jet fuel, right? And I was talking about it, and it's like, yeah, but then you're still going to use the jet fuel. And I'm like, yeah, but who gives a shit when you can suck it back out of the air and turn it back into jet fuel? Like, you just created a carbon cycle, so you're not adding anything, and you're creating neutrality. And feasibly, you could even suck out more than you're using, eventually, lowering, to a reasonable level wherever you wanted it to be. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you could actually do something very, very, literally, you could basically terraform the Earth to where you want it, at least from the carbon standpoint. So it's like, why would that not be, even if it didn't solve the issue, why would that not be a very big goal to work towards? Because, like I said, again, it's a pragmatic approach. Saying, hey, we can't scale out fucking jet fuel. It's a thing that's going to happen. But we can scoop that shit out of the atmosphere and burn it again. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's better than scooping it out of the dirt and burning it. You know what I mean? And it's like, so that's kind of the stuff. But like, you'll suggest stuff like that, and they're like, no, because I don't want to use carbon at all. And it's just like, you can't fucking fly a plane with solar panels, dude. It's not possible. Like, you're not. There's no commercial jetliners that are electric, so far as I know. And I'm gonna assume that's pretty far out. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're having issues trying to get trucks that are electric, like the semi trucks that carry the trailers and shit. So like, and if you think that takes a lot of freaking foot-pounds of force, keeping something in the air does. A big ass jetliner takes a lot. Which is actually, by the way, the big reason why the carbon emissions of the Department of Defense are so freaking high is because all the planes, they use a fuckload of gas. And they are not carbon friendly. Hey, we're in a Google search right now. What is the carbon emissions of a P-2 bomber? I bet that bitch is through the roof. Right? That's the old one. Right? Okay. So now we're doing another one. This is the new one they're using, the F-22 Raptor. They switched it out. The B-2 bomber was so cool, so much cooler looking. Motherfucker looked like a spaceship. F-22 Raptor just looked like a jet. You suck. It might be classified. Yeah, it's a newer one that they're using. What does the Cessna use? Use Cessna. I bet that motherfucker drinks. The point, yeah, like the point being, them motherfuckers drink. I'm just making a point. Okay, I'm just gonna say that like logic dictates the big ass plane they park other helicopters and planes and tanks on uses a lot of gas. Yeah, isn't it so sucky when you're trying to look up information and they just don't give you clear information? Yeah. Hey, can you Google that? Convert this to this? This is how you're gonna get hired as my producer. .3 miles per gallon? God damn! That thing goes a third of a mile to a gallon of gas. A gallon of gas gets that motherfucker a third of a mile down the road. down the air. But still, dude, the Cessna gets .3 miles per gallon. That's ridiculous. They're flying these motherfuckers left and right over Iraq while they're telling us, "Hey man, your car, it's just we're gonna have to crank that gas mileage up. That's way too low." I'm just being dumb. I just thought that was wild. I think it's wild though when you think about it from that. Damn, dude. That just blows my mind though. I knew it was low, but damn, .3. That's gonna get used in internet arguments in the future. You know, a Cessna gets .3 miles per gallon. Oh, bro. So basically, what this whole podcast is meant to let everybody know is Taylor Swift should be president. Girl boss. You know, it's wild. Like, apparently, there's a bunch of chicks watching sports because Taylor Swift is watching sports. And I'm just over here like, I'm here for that. Because maybe we'll actually get, some funding for women's sports now. That is kind of true. I will say though, the most irritating thing in the world to me is people complaining no one watches women's sports that don't watch women's sports. No. Dude, but there are some women's sports that be going ham though. MMA and shit, like people watch the fuck out of it. It just kind of depends. You know what I mean? And like I said, tennis is another one. What podcast I was listening to the other day was actually talking about that, where they were saying that like women's sports tends to skew towards 1v1 sports, whereas men's sports tends to skew towards a lot more towards team sports. Like, and I was like, that actually is kind of true. Like, like gymnastics and figure skating and all that. It's like all 1v1 stuff. Like all of the sports and I think that might have something to do with psychology. Hard to know, but I'm just saying that like the sports that women excel, like actually people watch, tend to be 1v1. And I was like, hey, I never really noticed that correlation, but it does pan out. Like any example you think of, it's true. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot think of a single team sport that's fit. Like even like fucking car racing. People love chicks car racing. Like Danica Patrick, all that. Like people love that shit. You know what I mean? Like if it's 1v1, if you're not on a team, people are about it. Or even 1v everyone. You know what I mean? Like with the racing. You know. It is. Fuck yeah, it is. I'll give them that. For real, for real. But nobody's watching women's hockey. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's watching women's soccer, really. You know what I'm saying? No one's really watching, you know, like, women's football. If that, I don't even know if that's a thing. Women's basketball isn't a really big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that. But, like, when you talk about women's tennis, bro, that place is filled watching people watching it. It's interesting. In UFC, same thing. Like, people are about women's UFC. That influence, giving you the insights, just wondering what the fuck's going on. We have no idea. It's because women don't want to be on teams, right? They just got to rip each other apart. So they can't be on teams together, and that's why. I don't know if it's a psychology thing, because like I said, it's not just what women watch either. We're talking about what men will watch too. Because it's like, and so like I said, I'm talking about overall demographics. Because even when you're talking about women's UFC, it's 90% men watching it, and women's tennis is at least half men. Yeah, I will say there is an exception to this, and it's obviously a sex thing, and that's volleyball. You know what I'm talking about, though. Like, yeah, that's the only exception that I can think of, and it's obviously a sex thing. It's like, oh, these chicks are half naked to jump around. You know, nobody's watching the Saudi Arabian volleyball championship. Yeah. No, I'm sure a lot about there in the Burkas. Over there fucking having a heat stroke. I wouldn't doubt that either. No, what was that one country that got in trouble because they said, what country was that? They sent their, like, the sports minister sent his, like, daughter to the Olympics or some shit. And she's, like, running in the race or whatever, and she's, like, fucking 8 seconds behind everybody. Like, it's obvious she's not an athlete. This chick's like, you know, and I'm not fat shaming, but I'm just saying, if you're at the Olympics, there's a certain level of fitness that you expect. And this chick is a good bit overweight, trying to be a track star. I'm like, this is not going to happen. Fat Albert was just a movie. It's just too much to carry that far that fast. Uh, but she was, again, it was one of those things. But it was one of these Muslim countries, and she was out there in her burqa, probably overheating from that shit too. Because yeah, running. Like, I'm not hating on your religion. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, that's gotta suck. That's all I'm saying. That's definitely a disadvantage. Yeah, and again, yeah, and that includes if you want to follow your religion and do that. Like, yeah, I don't think anybody should be forced to wear a burqa. I don't think there should be burqa laws. But, like, if that's your religion and that's what you want to do, good for you. Have fun. Wear your wig if you're that one, what is it, the Hasidic Jews? You know what I mean? I don't care. Have fun. Enjoy your life. You know what I mean? Make your choices. But I gotta say, that's definitely an extreme disadvantage when you're running or, jumping around or doing any kind of sports. I can see that as an extreme disadvantage. Not being able to breathe well. You know what I mean? And it's just hot. Like, put anything, surround your head with anything. It's hot as hell. It's wild that this shit came up with in the desert. Right, yeah, and well, yeah, that's kind of where I slightly veer libertine, where I say that there has to be a slight culture of allowing. That's why you have countercultures. You know what I mean? You have to have countercultures to allow people to escape the cultures that they don't want to be in. You see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people think that counterculture versus culture is like one is good, one is bad. It's like, no, it's just like some people like the culture they grew up in, and some people don't. And you have to allow both so people can escape and people can stay where they want to be. And they fix each other. You know what I'm saying? They balance each other out. And it's like, the experiments happen in one side, and then the other one sees the experiments and, adopts them, and then becomes the new culture, and then, you know what I mean? Things move forward. And that's how. We're back. Oh, we're back. Whatever reason, we dropped for a second. I'll tell you this laptop setup is working better than that desktop setup, so I'm happy with that. The only thing is my laptop doesn't have a Ethernet port, so I can't hardline it into the internet. So when my Wi-Fi cuts, sometimes it just a little lapse. But what was the last thing you heard? Yeah. No. I don't know why anybody thinks that. Yeah, that's kind of why I say, like, but truthfully, the synthesis of those two ideas is where reality lies. It's like, yeah, some things matter and some things don't, and that was the whole wisdom of the old wisdom that we. This is kind of the thing that I say too that you have to be careful with is when you move forward with traditions, right, and you're doing this synthesis, when you accidentally leave behind things that are really useful. So sometimes you do have to dig through old traditions and go, hey, that was actually quite useful. Why don't we bring that back? You know what I'm saying? And one of those is the old serenity doctrine, right? And so, you have to accept the things that you can, accept the things you can't change and have the courage to change the things you can. You know what I mean? And it's kind of that. That's really the thing. It's like where you find meaning is changing and dealing with the things that you can do, right? The things that you can change, right? Where you find, the absurdist, where you need the most postmodern, it doesn't matter, is what you're talking about. Where it's like, I can't fucking fix slavery in fucking Nestle tomorrow. You know what I mean? We know this is something that's going to have to probably be handled through policy, whether or not it be, hey, Nestle, you gotta, or anybody who's participating in, slave thing has to put a damn sticker on their box that says this is made by slaves. I bet you that would change a lot of people's buying habits. And if it didn't, we'll see. You know what I mean? Because I think that would change a lot of the way people look at things. And it would probably scare the shit out of companies enough to get them to not do it. Because you don't want that Instagram video going out. TikTok's galore. You see what's on my Nestle bar? Whatever it be, and like, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, but my point being is like, there obviously has to be something done at a collective level. It can't just be one person that changes this, right? Something that people gotta come together and do. But like, it doesn't. I don't know. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Yeah. Yeah, that's just generally that's kind of my point with all that. Like with Nestle, you gotta Nestle, Mars, all those companies are doing this shit. Like it's gotten to the point with because of the level of funding that they're giving to these operations, right? The operations that are doing ethical trade basically can't even survive and compete. And because they can't survive and compete, they're dying. And so it's making it almost impossible for and like honestly, like if there is anything I support government doing, it's saying, hey, you can't fucking enslave people. Like, hey, you can't murder people. Hey, you can't steal from people. It's like, why do I support government doing that? Because I support anybody doing that, whether or not you have a badge or not. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's like, so yeah, like I'm not. That's where people call me like half minarchist, but like, no, I'm, it's, I call it consistent principles. If I believe that I can murder a guy who's trying to, or I can kill a guy who's trying to murder my wife, then I believe the cop can kill a guy that's trying to murder my wife. Like what? And Joe down the street can do it, and that guy walking his dog, walking by can do it, and like, anybody can do this. So it's like, I'm not going to go because he has this badge, he's bad, or because he has this badge, he's good. I look at the world like One Piece. I don't care if you have a Marine. What are you doing? There's good guys and bad guys in every group. except for Straw Hat's crew. Only good guys. Well, to be fair, I will say that's what's funny is like the way that Oda seems to have handled that in our One Piece segment here. The way that Oda seems to have handled the fact that there isn't really good and bad in the Straw Hats is that he made each character have good and bad in themselves. Right? So like, whereas Usopp's a liar, you know what I'm saying? Zoro is self-absorbed as shit. You know what I mean? Robin is like extremely morbid and dark and, you know, depressing. Yeah. You know, Nami is greedy as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And Luffy doesn't listen to anybody, which is a horrible trait to have in a leader. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody has bad in them, and very, very big flaws. You know what I'm saying? But they all come together and seem to kind of cohesively solve it. Like, yeah, a lot of them. Like, you know, Frankie is stubborn about his appearance and his ego. Like, his ego is really his thing. He's too proud. I'm actually sitting here trying to think of what would be his downfall. I think Jinbei's just based. But it's not really. He's not stubborn so much as he's committed. I think that's a better way of putting it. Yeah, he uses it's in a good way. He's like, I made a promise, I'm keeping my fucking word. That's not stubborn. Like, he'll change his mind when presented with good evidence, but like, he keeps his word because he made his word. You know what I mean? That's different. It's two different things. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's more conviction than it is stubbornness. I don't know. Probably. And then there's also what's his face? God damn, why is his name escaping me? Mr. Bones. Brooke. Yeah, his character flaw is like he's obviously a pervert, which is basically Sanji's same flaw, which I kind of think is kind of weird that they gave them both the same flaw. Agreed. I love the fact that he's just the guy there to give dad jokes the whole time. I like that. Because he's the oldest character, and then he's there giving dad jokes, it makes it funny. I love it. Right. That's what makes his character really interesting. Like, I love that. Yeah, but like I said, I think I honestly think he serves the function better than Sanji does. of that character, of the character to the cohesiveness of the group, whereas Sanji is, of course, more powerful, but, like, he serves that function better in the story. Kind of like Token versus Butters, or not Token, Pip versus Butters we were talking about earlier. You know what I'm saying? How they kind of just use Pip is good, but Butters kind of just serve that function better. And it's the same thing. And it's like, to me, I feel like Brook serves the function better than Sanji does. Because when he does the pervert stuff, it generally doesn't go way too far. It's just kind of like, oh, it's just a creepy old man. It kind of works. You know what I mean? Whereas with Sanji, it's just like, I don't know, for him, that's one thing that kind of is annoying, is how they make it where it debilitates him and everything, and it's just kind of stupid. Like, it's like every woman is basically Boa Hancock for him. Yeah. You know the chick that creates stuff out of her body? That chick is the English voice actor for that chick is the same English voice actor for Luffy. And I was like, when I saw that, I listened to both of them, I was like, that's a voice actor. Because you can't tell them apart. Like, you can't be like, oh, that's definitely the same person. To me, that's the thing about voice acting that makes somebody an actual good voice actor to me. Is like when you actually have voices. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think we should announce our coming segment. I've decided that I think it'd be an interesting podcast situation, and we can invite other people from the group if they want to come on too and do similar thing. But we're gonna do like converting an X, right? So I'm going to present. I'm going to present a reading topic. Of course, like we're not going to be reading fucking 50-page treatises here. And if anytime we prescribe anything, we're going to be like, we're doing this chapter. Because like we all have lives and shit to do, and I also would like anybody who wants to follow along to be able to read that shit too, or listen to an audiobook or whatever, right? So I'm gonna prescribe some text to John, and he's gonna prescribe some text to me, or we could also even do a video. And then we are going to come back and talk about it and see what his reaction is. And the idea is I want him, and we're going to all do this with charity. We're not going to be like, oh, this guy's full of shit. We're going to go in there and go, hey, this is what I agree with. This is what I disagree with. Notes. I'm going to take notes and everything. So I have something in mind. But I have to look it up and see how long it is because I don't want to give him too much homework. and it'd be crazy. Not to say you don't like to read, but like I know you got a bunch of shit going on, just like I do too. And I wouldn't like you giving me a fucking book. But yeah, like I have something in mind. I think I'm gonna give you a chapter from something called domestic imperialism. It's from a guy, if I remember right, I think his name is Keith Knight. He was a hyper progressive guy that is now a hyper hardcore libertarian. And this story, this book specifically is highlighting several reasons he left progressivism. Blah, blah, blah. So I think I'll point out a few chapters here and there. You know what I'm saying? And I would like you to kind of respond to his criticisms of progressivism from a former progressive to a libertarian. So I don't know if we'll start from one or bounce around, but I think that's what I would kind of want to work through first, because I think that's a really interesting angle, especially for such a segment, if that makes sense. And of course, any progressive minds that you come up with, let me know. We will re-announce what the readings are in the group, so anybody who wants to read along can read along and be prepared to understand what the fuck we're talking about. So the group again is Civility and Politics on Facebook. If anybody would like to join and talk about politics with Charity and try to find out what other people are thinking rather than hating each other and slinging shit. I mean, if you want to hate each other and sling shit, there are a lot of places for that. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Peace.